Guys, good morning, Dave. Afternoon, Rob. How you doing?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
Right, guys, as you know, we've asked the Red Army to put their questions to you this week. We've had a great response, so a big thank you to everybody who's taken time to do so. I put the questions into different categories, and we'll try to get through as many as we can starting now. So, okay, so good luck to both of you. Okay.
Do we need it?
Right, guys, the first topic is obviously the ongoing situation. There was a lot of questions relating to the comments from First Minister Nicola Sturgeon this week. So, Dave, if I can start with you, Stuart Fisher and many others ask, if, as seems more and more likely, fans will not be allowed to enter stadiums this year, can Scottish football and the Don survive this, considering our game relies on fans at games instead of TV money more than most European leagues?
Well, it's a really good question, and obviously, not having been through any of this before, again, to use the term unprecedented, then the issues, without being evasive, the issues in front of us are this: when are we going to be able to come out of this lockdown on this phased approach? Where do we go in terms of clearly the number of people that get the virus, so on and so forth? But to answer the question, if we are not playing football in any shape or form, whether it's behind closed doors, all being televised so we generate income, or whether it's actually back with fans in stadiums, one way or the other, it's going to be very, very difficult for almost every Scottish club to survive through the end of this year. It's just a simple fact. But I think the key thing to this, as I mentioned at the weekend in the media, Mal, is that our number one priority right now should be, how do we quickly and safely get back to playing football, even behind closed doors, in order to avoid this financial Armageddon that is being portrayed. And so all of our efforts just now are around working with like-minded groups and obviously the SPFL. There are great models elsewhere. I mean, obviously Germany and the Scandinavian countries, Denmark in particular, have done a really good job to contain the virus. So it looks like they'll be back one shape or the other playing behind closed doors sooner rather than later. We have the EPL and the EFL also got detailed plans. And we are talking to all of those bodies just now to take a look at what they're doing and why they're doing it. And also with the MLS as well. So, but coming back, Aberdeen Football Club will survive. We will absolutely survive this. In what shape or form it all takes at the end, then it's out with our control. The thing that's in our control is for us to lead as a club with all the interested parties to ensure our focus 100% is working with government, working with the health authorities to ensure we get back quickly and safely playing football, including, I would imagine, behind closed doors first and foremost, as that seems the safest kind of an approach. And so as soon as we get any more information or any more kind of specific updates on the timing of this, then our fans will be the first to know.
Okay, AFC Kev1 asked, do you agree that there'll be no fans in stadia until a vaccine has been developed?
Again, that's a superb question. I'm not a medical doctor, obviously, but I'm a good listener and I'm inquisitive. I've talked to a lot of people that are different ends of the spectrum to this. There are people saying we shouldn't be doing, whether it's football or whether it's rugby or whether it's, a concert. This won't happen until next calendar year. By the same token, we're seeing in Germany, working closely between the football authorities and the government and the health authorities, that they have a plan in place. It all comes round, Mal. It really all comes down to, testing, for example. I mean, once we have the ability to do widespread, and I mean really widespread testing, right, where you can test people and then trace it back to those people they have seen, that in and of itself is going to be a critical part of us getting, as a society, getting back to normal. So I think there are both ends of the spectrum, those people that believe there needs to be a vaccine in place, but others as well that believe that a phased approach where we go through this kind of trace testing, as they said, would be the way forward.
Okay, Dave, just some questions about the government, because there was quite a few on them, and you've touched on that a little bit, but Charlie Benji's asked, are Scottish clubs speaking to the government about games being played behind closed doors and being televised? So has there been any formal talks at the moment?
Not that I'm specifically aware of. I do know that there is a meeting set up now between the government and probably the SFA and the SPFL, which is a good sign.
Okay, absolutely. Just again on the government scheme, and there was quite a number of questions. Colin Craib and a few others asking, if we're losing £1 million a month, why do we not use the furlough scheme?
Yeah, so let's put this in perspective. When we said that we a few weeks ago we weren't using the furlough scheme, that was in specific reference to, for example, our tremendous efforts with the 20 people in the call centre. Right, we believe that the investment of 20 people in the call centre has benefited the community, has benefited the club, the trust. That's been a massively successful program, as we've seen. Over 3,000 calls have been made. I mean, you see it on social media on a regular basis. I actually got a message yesterday about a husband and wife, the wife is actually it's stage 4 cancer, and husband big Dons fan, and got a call yesterday from Derek McInnes, and just how that just made that person's day. A call from Derek. His wife was actually in getting some shopping and came out, and she chatted with Derek too, and so they had a long conversation just around, you know, the realities of life, and we all know that life brings, never mind the virus, its health challenges. So coming back to it, I just thought that was a really good, just an amazing example there of why we should have a call centre of people. So we did not decide not to furlough those people. We have furloughed a number of people at the club, full-time and part-time. For example, people in the retail store. I mean, it's obvious that if people are working in a retail store, for example, that the shop isn't open.
Rob, just come to you. I mean, you're the one that's had to try coordinate all the non-football staff. It's been quite a challenge, hasn't it? But a lot of them have done a fantastic job.
Well, Mel, I've been absolutely amazed at how everybody's responded and got behind the need for us to be more prudent in our spending. People have really responded incredibly well right across the club. And, you know, I've dreamed of the odd opportunity to be able to work from home every now and again. It's kind of come true now. I'm not sure it's for everybody. I, for one, am really looking forward to getting back into the office, to be honest. But you know, we've had to adapt. We've had to be agile. We've had to be flexible. And, you know, we've made great use of the technology that we've got available to try and make sure that meetings go ahead as planned. You know, I'm going to be finishing this interview and then getting on to a number of other calls tonight. We seem to be working longer hours, but
yes,
it's really good. It's, you know, you find you're more effective. We're getting a lot more done in some ways by comparison to sometimes just being in the office. So it's been an interesting learning curve, but it's certainly been encouraging and good in a number of ways.
Okay, guys, we'll move on to another section. There's quite a number of questions about closed doors and also a bit about Red TV. So, Dave, I'll start with you. If the club had freedom to decide its own closed door scenario, how would you see it working? For example, platform, is Red TV suitable, price, etc., and what about away games?
Yeah, and so that's a really good question. Again, there are a number of permutations around there. So let's say, for example, and again, hypothetically, and we'll find out from UEFA this week, right? But let's say hypothetically that we do finish the remaining 8 games, and or we end up playing the new season and starting that out behind closed doors. Well, best practices right now would suggest that you pick maybe 1 or 2 stadiums to play the games in, right? Then obviously you've got to consider things like pitch maintenance, but that would constrain, or not constrain, that would kind of reduce the safety challenge element if these games are being played behind closed doors in 1 or 2 stadia versus the 42 clubs that we've got just now. But the idea on the television side would absolutely be, for example, for those that have got season tickets, that our goal would be to provide those fans with free or effectively turn their season ticket into a virtual season ticket so that they can watch the games. Now, as you or those listening might not know, UEFA has already said that there won't be an issue with the 3 p.m. Saturday, for example, broadcast where there's a blackout. We couldn't show, right, just carte blanche in the UK, not overseas, in the UK, a live game at 3 o'clock from Pittodrie, okay? And so that has been lifted clearly as a result of this crisis that we're in. So the whole idea there would be, if we have to play games behind closed doors, we will find a way of being able to allow our fans to see every game that we play. And that would differ, obviously, depending if it was a season ticket holder that's already paid for their season ticket versus someone that would be, let's say, a walk-up or someone that comes to just a few games a season. Rob?
Absolutely, Dave. I think, the other challenge for us, we've obviously opened up Red TV to our season ticket holders already for this season to try and improve access. And I think that's working very well. It's working essentially as a video on demand service. I think we'd have to look at the technology and the resources with our partner Stream Digital, were that to become essentially a live streaming service when we move to games behind closed doors. So there's a lot of operational considerations, but certainly the early uptake of things like Red TV when we've widened the access to all season ticket holders has been very encouraging.
Okay. Just to add to that, Mal, obviously there are other parties. We've got contracts with Sky Television for next season, right? Mm-hmm. And so we would really need to get around the table, or the SPFL, SFA, get around the table with all constituent parties to be able to have a conversation around what we could deliver as a league.
Okay. No, just on that, Dave, Craig Coyle asks, what discussions are there with the TV companies? But I mean, you're saying there hasn't been any discussions at the moment, but that's something that will have to happen.
Well, there will be conversations ongoing, but the contract with the clubs for televised games, for example, with Sky and BT just now, that's directly managed by the SPFL itself. And I know that there are ongoing conversations clearly that take place there.
Okay. Next subject, season tickets. Rob, I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Alexander Wilson, Christopher Duguid, and again a few others. What will the club do to reward fans who have already or are going to purchase a season ticket for next season, given that there's no guarantee what shape or form next season will take?
Well, I think, Mel, I'd start by saying a huge thank you to the 3,000 fans who've already committed to a season ticket for next season. We've taken some early steps, as I mentioned, to provide free of charge access to Red TV for all of our current season ticket holders and those who've renewed or bought for the first time for next season as well. We're seeing great levels of engagement with that on the platform, which has certainly been encouraging. And you've probably also seen that we're going to be producing a commemorative program to really look at the response of the Red Army. This will be a limited edition program based around our Still Standing Free campaign. I think this will be a very, very special publication. It'll contain all of the names of everyone who signed up to a season ticket by the 30th of April, but also everybody who's an active DNA member at the time. And we'll be providing free of charge copies to all of those people as well. I think, these are just some of the benefits that we've started to outline. These are, strange times for everyone, but we're looking at a range of additional elements, and these are certainly some of the first thoughts that we've had. I would also point out that, perhaps an indirect benefit to a number of people involved with the club is the fact that the directors of the club are going to match a donation to our community trust, and that may well provide a range of indirect benefits over time as well.
Dave, do you want to start? I mean, we really do appreciate everybody who is spending money on season tickets at the moment, don't we?
Absolutely. Look, I think one of the things that we've done, and listen, at the end of the day, we're a family club, and we really are. It's in everything we do. We're at the heart of our community. We're doing the right things. And I've just been heartened by just the way everybody's kind of responded, to the situations that we're all in just now. But for those fans willing and able to get a season ticket, we've got schemes that are interest-free for 6 months there as well. It really is. It really will help us make a difference. As we came out with a few weeks ago, investor group, including myself, made 2 million available to come into the club. We've also got the season ticket holder kind of base that is helping just now significantly, as well. And so all of these things, along with some of the cost reduction side that we've put in place, that will see us through to the fall, the autumn, as we'd say, kind of back home. But I can't say a big enough thanks. And listen, I say to people, we are not perfect. Rob, myself, the director, none of us is perfect. We make mistakes on things time to time, but judge us on how we respond. And as long as we continue to have constructive dialogue and open dialogue with our fans and our community, we see that as being really healthy. I mean, I'm as you know, Mal, and Rob knows, I'm a very data-driven person. I'm into data and key performance indicators and all of that stuff. But at the core, I'm a half full person, and some people will say to you, that'll never work, and but I like to think we've got, Rob, right, a team here internally, a lot of young managers as well, very talented, that have got a cup half full attitude, but it's based upon them looking for solutions. How do we get this done? Does it make sense? And as Rob said earlier, we're working more hours than we've ever worked, as a group. It's relentless. I mean, but you know what? Our football club is at stake. It's not my club. It's not Rob's club. We love the club. It's our club as a community and as a set of fans. And we cannot do it without them. And I'm just really feel blessed that we've got what we've got in Aberdeen and in the region. Rob?
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, I've only been at the club 2 years, but I'm just astonished at the uptake, particularly in things like season tickets and DNA memberships by fans for a season that we don't know, when it's in effect going to start. I've been truly blown away, and the response right across the community has been incredibly impressive. And I only echo what you say. I think we're very fortunate to have the group of fans that we do.
Okay, guys, moving on, because we've got a lot more questions to get through. Dave, just a quick one on insurance. Kevin Anderson asked, did the issue with insurance policies get sorted out?
Well, we're still working on it, is the short answer. But, the insurance side itself, putting it in context, really will be, even if we get every game covered, before the insurance policy lapsed or lapses at the end of this month or after, then, you know, it's going to be a useful amount of money, but we don't know whether it's going to be 100,000 or 300,000 or 400,000 in and of itself. But to say this, we've had some positive conversations. Kevin, our finance director, has had some really positive conversations about how we might be treated with this. And but for us, it's probably something that is anything from 100,000 to maybe 400,000 or 500,000 of help, depending on how long this goes for.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, next topic's league reconstruction. Okay, a nice easy one. Dave, I'll start with you and then maybe get your thoughts as well, Rob. Glenn Schroeder asks, Dave, why do you only want league reconstruction for one season and not permanently when we have players and fans who find the current setup boring and need of change?
Well, first of all, as I said at the weekend, you know, the worst time to make any strategic decision or long-term decision is in the middle of a crisis, right? The worst thing we could do is go and put something else in that ends up being even more boring. And I'm not saying it is boring just now, but listen, the worst thing we could do is put something else in place that doesn't actually work across the board. And so, so how all this came about, right, was the situation that Hearts, Partick Thistle and Stranraer are in, for example. It was to show an empathy there on this situation that we're in for one season, so that nobody is unfairly penalized, right? And so in order to, and listen, fairness, what's the fair thing to do? My view is that the fair thing to do for one season would be to have a 14-team league in the Premiership and then dovetail that through the other leagues, and that at the end of this next season, it rectifies itself. Then everyone's got a fighting chance to stay up, right? Okay, there'll be more relegation next season, but that would mean the games are played. So this thing has morphed from being a solution to help Hearts and Partick Thistle, in particular, the situation they're in Stranraer, right? It's morphed from that into, you know, many clubs seeing this as an opportunity to reorganize not just reorganize the whole league, but as we speak with this task force, they're also talking about redistribution of income as well. And that in and of itself is a complete minefield. You know, you've got all sorts of opinions and views that are there that you've seen in the media in the last few days. So here's my perspective on it. Whilst there are 15 people on a committee looking at reorganizing Scottish football, what might be, and many of them have opposing views to each other. Whilst we're focusing on that, we're not focusing on what matters right now. What matters right now is, how do we put a plan together, like the other leagues are doing in the other countries? How do we put a plan together to work with our government proactively and the health authorities to get back playing football as quickly as we can, but as safely as we can? Because if we spend the next 2 months fighting through reorganizing the whole league, you know, we're focusing on the wrong thing, you know. And I mean, for me, maybe this is a bit out there, but it's almost like the concern is that it's almost like we're with this reorganization. It's almost like we're trying to reorganize the deck chairs on the Titanic while it's going down. We have to focus on surviving. That's the number one thing. So for me, that's why I'm not supportive of any permanent changes just now. One, because we've other things to do, and two, it's the wrong time to make such an important decision.
Rob, just get your thoughts, and I'll give you a question from D-Side Dawn. He asks, can the Corona shutdown be the switch off and switch back on again moment for Scottish football, with the licensing, game time, membership, TV channels? He also says impartial refereeing could all be discussed. You can see why I put that one to you and not Dave, because we've had Dave's thoughts on referees. Got us into trouble, so I'll give that to you, okay?
I think there's got to be a really clear distinction, Mel, and I'd echo what Dave says in terms of no knee-jerk reactions. If anything, the focus has got to be 100% around survival and getting through this crisis as quickly as we can. The feel-good factor that will come when football returns cannot be underestimated, and there will be time to deal with, licensing and refereeing and all those sorts of things. And as a club and as a challenger club and challenger brand, we've said on a number of occasions that we want to see increased levels of transparency and openness, and the time will be there for that in due course. But right now, there's got to be a very clear single focus, and as Dave says, a plan to make sure that Scottish football as a whole and the likes of Aberdeen Football Club can survive and get through what are truly unprecedented times. I think as a city, we've got some significant challenges. There's the impact of the virus on its own, but then you see what we've seen this week in terms of the oil price collapse, and it's a bit of a double whammy for the city as a whole. So I think we've got enough on our plate, and we can worry about refereeing a little bit further down the line.
Another category, guys. Kingsford. Rob, I'll come to you first. Ben Rose and a good number of others. What is the likelihood of the club still moving to a new stadium? Tom Mather's slightly different, but does current events change any plans for a new stadium?
Well, hi, Ben, and thank you for the question. I believe the view of the board is that we're still firmly, committed to moving to the new stadium for all the reasons that we've stated on a number of occasions previously. It is the only way, and certainly the best way, for the club to deliver a modern matchday experience and for us to grow our revenues. We know that isn't going to happen at Pittodrie over the longer term. But that said, we've got to be realistic. The unexpected financial challenges that have been brought about as a result of the pandemic are going to mean that we're going to have to look, really carefully at our plans and assess the timing associated with the move. I think that would be fair to say, Dave.
Yes, no, absolutely, Rob. I think that for all the reasons we've talked about before, then delivering a top-class facility with all of the the kind of fan experience and engagement we want to see, it's the smart thing for us to move to Kingsford. Having said that, now all bets are off the table on timing until we get through this. I mean, how long is a piece of string? Is this 4 months? Is it 6 months? Is it 9 months? I mean, if it costs us 4, 5, 6, 10 million to get through this as a club, then that clearly, in and of itself, takes money from other things we might want to do, whether it be the Kingsford base in particular, or whether it be investments in the football operation. Our number one priority right now, guys, is surviving and getting through this. And once we've done that, we'll take a deep breath, we'll sleep on it, and we'll come back up and give our perspective, as we will do, being a transparent club with our fans.
Rob, just some questions on Pittodrie. Dandy Stone asked, how much does Pittodrie cost us per year in maintenance? And is there an argument for money to be spent on it and shelving the Kingsford's plans? Kevin Anderson, similar. Are there short-term plans to refurb parts of Pittodrie badly needing it?
Well, I'll try and answer both, Mel. The reality is Pittodrie is an ageing asset, and it probably costs us around £500,000 a year to maintain that across all different facets of the stadium. We're obviously subject to an annual audit and a survey to achieve our safety certificate. But the reality is, though, these are costs that we're never going to recoup, because the value inherently lies in the land for development at a later point in time, rather than the stadium itself. So it's frustrating year on year to be putting £500,000 into the current stadium, but we have little choice, because there are minimum criteria and standards that we've got to meet. I think importantly, it's worth pointing out, and to put into context, we've also got to consider the operating costs at Cormack Park, state-of-the-art facilities, but there's an extra £750,000 a year that we've got to provide for, in addition to everything that goes on at Pittodrie. And I think, at the end of the day, we've got to find a balance. that is suitable and right for the club. We've recently refurbished the main dining suite on level 3. We're working with our stadium catering partner Sodexo to upgrade our EPOS and digital signage to improve the matchday experience around the kiosks. And we're looking to put in some innovative branding to try and celebrate some of our major honours and different things like that. It's really finding a balance that works given the circumstances. But there are times where it's very frustrating that you've got to, keep sinking a lot of money into what is very much an aging asset.
Okay, Dave, on the red shed, Ryan asks, why did you decide to introduce the red shed?
Well, it's a good question. It was actually something that we'd been talking about, Rob, myself, and others. And I actually have to give Rob credit for. I think Rob was the one that came up with the red shed name. And I learned a long time ago, if you can't innovate, imitate. So I grabbed it, and we've kind of used it since. So at least I'm giving you credit for it now, Rob. but the whole idea. And Rob can kind of go through what was asked for in a minute or so. But the whole idea there was we wanted to see a better fan experience. And we've continually had a number of people that wanted to see and get an area for the fans to congregate to deliver what we've delivered. And so the genesis of that really came from the fans. And, as Rob alluded to earlier, we have to get the licensing authorities at the City Council, for example. They license us as a venue. We can't do anything as a venue unless we are approved, right, from a safety standpoint, etc. And so what we did was we sat down with the team, including Paul Henry, our stadium manager, and said, guys, we're going to put this on. We're going to test this. What do we need to do to get it done, as opposed to trying to give us maybe 5 or 6 reasons why something can't be done. And so everybody was on board with that 100%. But of course, we have to go through the license authorities to demonstrate that there's safety there. So the genesis of that with the fans, I think it would be helpful maybe if, Rob, you kind of talk about what the fans asked for and what we've delivered.
Well, we really wanted to recreate that away end kind of feel, but at home. And in a lot of the discussions that we had with fans, the 2 key criteria that seemed to emerge consistently were the need for unallocated seating, which was quite difficult to get approved and get agreed, but we managed to get that and deliver that. But also the desire to see ticket prices under £20. And again, we've been able to deliver that in respect of the season ticket pricing for next season. If you're an early bird buyer of an adult season ticket in the Red Shed, you're getting it at £17. And it drops away to £12 and £9 for younger age groups. So I think very important that we've been able to deliver those 2 key elements. We're looking to the fans to also help us decorate and brand the Red Shed and to really try and continue, I think what was a fantastic experience during the trials.
Guys, so just in the Red Shed, there was another one. Tommy Williamson asked, is there a chance of installing safe standing in the Red Shed next season? I'm not sure about next season, but is there an opportunity further down the line for that to happen?
I'll take that one, Mel. We've looked very closely at safe standing right around the stadium for obvious reasons. The main stands are a non-starter. The South Stand and the Merkland, unfortunately, given the age of the concrete as well as the spacing of the stairs, makes it unlikely that those are 2 areas that could take safe standing. There are obviously a number of different choices in terms of modern seating arrangements for safe standing. We've had a couple of the best suppliers in the market come to Pataudry to carry out some assessments. The only place you could really consider it is in the lower part of the Richard Donald stand, where obviously it's much newer concrete and of a suitable depth. There are challenges around that in its own right, because you get into all sorts of issues around sight lines. You could imagine, for example, the corporate sat in the center of the lower RDS, and then on either the left or the right hand side with 300, 400 people standing. You've got sightline issues for when people are taking corners, etc., etc. So it's a difficult one, I think, to see becoming a reality at Pittodrie, but it's very, very much on our radar in terms of the new stadium.
Okay.
Just if I could just add into that, Mal, it would cost us, I think, Rob, just to even put some safe standing into the Merkland. They're talking about to bring up the concrete, etc., at least £500,000 of work. And so, as Rob talked about earlier, it's an aging asset. It's just not practical for us at this juncture to even consider that. I also wanted to say as well that on the red shed itself, a number of questions, and I may be getting ahead of myself here, Mal. The only questions has been in terms of why we don't have an under 12 price and an under 12 access, if you like, to the red shed. It's 100% down to safety and safety standards and to the authorities licensing us. In the 2 games that we did, they witnessed younger fans, under 12, for example, who were standing on seats on a regular basis because they couldn't see. We had 1 or 2 instances where parents had to take their kids away because of people, standing up and moving into the aisles, which you can't congregate. So for us to deliver the red shed, okay, now we can't stop somebody that buys a youth ticket, for example, for someone that's 9 or 10 years old. We can't, obviously, some people have done that, but we just can't simply be seen to be proactively encouraging under 12s to be there for safety reasons. And again, I come back to what Rob said earlier. This 20s plenty. We were asked in terms of the range of season tickets, or the prices per match that Rob went through. We asked what was reasonable, and it came up with 20s plenty. What we've ended up with is an average price probably of about £14 a game, depending on the mix of people that buy the tickets. And that needs to be put in context. We will invest £60,000 more this coming season in the red shed, between stewarding, between the additional cameras and quality of cameras we have to put in place to monitor, because that's part of the safety license, and also in what we want to do from an entertainment standpoint. The displays that we put on before each game, these are about £1,500 to £2,000, but they're great entertainment. And so we are planning to invest. It's a one-off kind of situation. These fans wanted the red shed to be an active area where the average age was less than 30. And so we've achieved all of that. And just for the fans to know, our average age of someone as an adult that's 41 years old. So what we've achieved with this is an average age, below 30, so in their 20s. So everything that we were asked to do, safe, in terms of the standing, along with the sorry, Rob, the
unallocated seating.
Unallocated seating, 20s plenty below that, as well as the average age being at an age where, there were kind of similar-minded people that wanted to be there. Because the red shed's not for everybody, not everybody wants to be involved in that. But I will tell you this, we are the envy, and Rob will tell you this, we're the envy of many, many, many clubs in England as well, looking at what we've done and asking us how we went about it. So we think that the red shed's a fantastic opportunity for us to demonstrate what we can do. And what we need to do is not just look at things like the Red Shed for that group of people who want to be there. We've got some incredible plans ahead of us for families, for kids, for testing out marquees outside the stadium, being able to maybe have a band and adults and fair price drinking and food as well. And I think that might be one of your other questions, Mal, so I apologise if I'm jumping ahead of myself.
No, well, yeah, I think there was a concern from Bruce Christie about the elimination of the family stand, but I mean, we are going to look after families and put them into other areas of the ground. Is that right, Rob? Yeah.
Yes, very much so, Mel. The ticket office are doing a great job calling round to anybody who's looking to make a move. There's some fantastic other areas within the stadium that we know can accommodate families. And, I've always been somewhat mystified since coming to the club as to why the Merkland has been called the family stand, because it can't actually cater for any family related activities. We need to move families to an area where we can actually put on, whether it's face painting or, family fun zones. And the best place to do that is the Richard Donald stand.
Okay. And on the Richard Donald stand, there was a question from Lee Seymour, who was slightly concerned about missing out on big games if the upper RDS is closed. But I presume it will open if there is demand for it, yeah?
Well, Lee, let me assure you, you're not going to miss out. I think it's important to understand the main motivation about closing the upper RDS. I think as part of our drive for a better match day experience, we wanted to get as many people as we could into the lower bowl, so to speak. I think there's often a case where people sitting up in the top of the upper RDS feel somewhat detached. I think certainly closing it aligns our capacity with recent crowd numbers and what we've been seeing, and it starts to drive an element of scarcity, which I think is really important, because at the moment, as a fan, you can pretty much get into any game you like. So we're well underway with those plans. We're looking at producing a series of large-scale banners, which will go up into the top of the upper RDS, which are going to be designed in such a way so as to be flexible. So if we've got the demand, they can easily be dismounted, and we can accommodate fans up there should there be the necessary demand.
Dave Elliott Finlay asks, when will Concie's statue be getting built?
Well, first of all, what a servant to the club, an Aberdeen boy himself, Bankery, but Aberdeen. Just a wonderful. One of the nice things about the job, the role, is when I get back home and seeing and chatting to some of the guys. I will say this: we've got a really good dressing room. I'm not saying that to patronise the players or Derek, but we've got a really good dressing room of guys, and we're seeing it right now with the calls they're making. So hey, listen, he isn't finished playing yet, so I think he might feel a wee bit offended if we were to put a wee statue up now. It's almost like, hey, is this my last season? And like a good wine, Andy seems to be getting better as the years go on.
Yeah.
Just incredibly talented guy. So yeah, listen, there's going to be plenty of time for us to recognise our heroes in various ways at Pittodrie and also at the new stadium.
Right, guys, we've still got quite a few to get through, so we'll try to rattle through some of these. There's quite a number of questions about fan zones. Okay, we'll come to that in a minute. But Dave, to start with you, Michael Johnson asked about alcohol. Many football leagues across Europe sell alcohol in the stadium. Would this be something Aberdeen Football Club would consider? And what's holding us back from this happening in Scottish football?
Well, at the end of the day, what's holding us back is clearly the edict from the Scottish government. And this goes back to 1980. The game at Hampden that we're all kind of aware of, and that these restrictions came in. Look, we're not the only club, other clubs. I think what we need to do as a league is have dialogue with the authorities. Because, for example, at Pittodrie, I think there's about 70 or 75% of our games, there's no police there, just stewards, and there's no police there, there's no issues. And so I do think it's a bit unfair, to just be absolutely, on or off, so to speak, on alcohol, not alcohol. There is alcohol served at Pittodrie in the hospitality areas, and we would like nothing better than to be able to offer fans a pint at the stadium, around the stadium, on games, and it is uppermost in our minds from a commercial perspective, but obviously something that needs to take a back seat until we get through this crisis.
Rob, similar questions for you, but Travis Knightley, is it possible to put a big structure outside the RDS that sells beer? And Robbie Hanratty, what do you think of buying the Broadhill Bar and converting it into a fan zone?
Good questions from both of them, Mel. But Travis, to answer your question first, ironically, we'd done all the background work working with a local agency in town with the view to planning the trial of a fan zone this very season. But we've obviously had to mothball those plans given the pandemic. The idea is to put up a large scale marquee. Offer a mix of food, music, and definitely a beer. And I will come and join you for a beer, Travis, that's for sure. We've looked at a setup outside the back of the RDS. We've also explored and had discussions with the council around renting the cricket pitch that's adjacent to the driving range. And those are the two areas that we're currently reviewing. What I would say is we're committed to setting up a trial of one of these as soon as we can get back to playing football with crowds, that's for sure. In terms of Robbie's question, we've also, funnily enough, started exploring that. I think the early indications around the Broadhill Bar are that despite it being structurally sound, unsurprisingly, it's in need of some major refurbishment. So going back to the earlier question of putting money into an aging asset, I'm not sure we'd want to necessarily do that. Could that become a fan-led project? Perhaps. I think we need to get some hard hats on, go in and have a really close look at that. But I think first and foremost, we'd do the trial of the fan zone as we've been thinking with the marquee, and then we can look to explore other options as well.
Okay, Rob, we're running out of time a wee bit, so we'll just quickly go through some commercial questions for you. First of all, the kit. A number of people asked, when are the new kits coming out? And also on the kit, Stuart McNay asks, can we have a simple and true black and gold, even if it's just a third strip, and funds go to the community trust? Which I thought was an interesting idea.
That's a great idea from Stuart, and we're actually looking at some other ideas around those sorts of concepts. So what I'd say to Stuart for the moment is watch the space. In respect of the kit launches, obviously Aberdeen have traditionally been one of the first clubs to launch a kit for a new season. We traditionally look to launch in mid-May with the home strip and the training wear, and then follow that up about 6 weeks later with the away strip. I'm sure fans can begin to imagine some of the sort of global supply chain challenges that have come about as a result of the pandemic, but we're working closely with our partner, obviously Adidas, to try and stick to the plan of May, and hopefully going to be in a position to announce something shortly. What I would say is that both the home and the away strips for the coming season are the best I've seen in my time at the club. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and I know Jason Hill, who heads up our retail operation, can't wait to launch them. Just to give fans a little bit of a perspective in terms of some of the timelines and the deadlines that we work with, we're already a long way down the line with the design and planning for the 2021-22 kits already, just to give you a sense of sort of some of the lead times involved. But as I say, can't wait to get the new kits out.
Guys, there's a few questions on DNA, so either you can take this one. This is from Bob. Shouldn't Aberdeen be linked to some form of fan ownership rather than treated as a donation, giving all fans a meaningful stake, both in recognition of contributions already made and as an incentive for greater participation?
Yeah, so I'll take that one, Rob. Listen, it's a really good question, and with respect to our plans down the line for the fundraise for the new stadium, then I think absolutely at that point we would be looking for feedback from the fan base as to their appetite for contributing to the club and getting shareholding. One of the challenges that we do have related to a membership scheme, and again, it depends on all the various structures that are set up, is looking at the cost of setting up for example, a monthly membership and how that kind of translates into shareholding and at what point. But look, I think from our perspective, we did fully consider looking at with Aberdeen that being part of an umbrella and fans being able to contribute. So what I would say to that is that watch this space just now. But once we get through all of this and we get back to what we were hoping to do, like Rob a couple of months ago, was the full planning process and how we go about the funding element to that's very much uppermost in our minds. I mean, for me personally, I've said all along, it's our club, and there's nothing that we will aim to do without getting our fans on board, and our fans have different opinions, right, on how we should go about certain things. But I would hope the fan base would feel that our outreach has really come to the fore in terms of our willingness and desire to be transparent with the fans. What I will say is that, and we've said already, is that Rob and I see the Aberdeen effectively moving into being an umbrella membership for everybody. So whether that be Aberdeen Junior under 12s, which is free and comes with some real benefits, being members of the football club, or whether it be a season ticket holder or a season ticket holder and someone that does DNA in the shape it is today, then everyone is a member of Aberdeen Football Club. And as part of that journey, we will absolutely be looking at fan participation in terms of shareholding.
Rob, one for you, Martin Mackey, I think it's in Tenerife. Any chance of DNA international members getting a different pack from UK members? The majority live in warmer climates. Look at him. So a scarf and a touré are nae much use.
Lucky to be there, although I'd say the weather in Aberdeen over the last couple of days, it's been a little bit of a rival for Tenerife. It's certainly something we can look at. I think it's important that the membership is as flexible as possible. We've actually been looking at what some of the other memberships in different sports and different countries offer. Most recently, we've looked at some of the teams in the AFL, in Aussie Rules Football, who operate similar membership programs to DNA. And it was interesting to see they actually offer a choice of gift within their membership pack. So that's very much in our thinking. It may not be something that we can implement for this current season, but certainly down the next when the next season comes, that's certainly something that we can look at. I think what I would say to Mark is that from personal experience, I think he'll be wishing he had his scarf the next time he visits Pataudry.
Guys, just last couple of questions. A couple of interesting ones I thought were quite good. Mikey Thompson asks, Dave, what's the best part of being the chairman of such a great club?
Well, from a serious perspective, it's obviously an honour and a privilege, and what I would say is that it's not just me. I mean, Stuart and I have known each other a long time. The directors work extremely hard, all the directors, with everything we're going through just now, all the directors working hard. I mean, Gordon Buchan, who's been on our board for 28 years, right? The longest serving director, just ahead of Stuart. Everybody is, and so for me, it's all about having a great team of people. We've got a good team of people at the executive level, at management level, and at the board. And so for me, it's obviously an honour and a privilege. I take it really kind of seriously. As you guys know, I'm a driven person. I've been accused of being relentless, and it's probably true. I will tell you that I've been on the board for over 3 years almost now, and everybody inside the club, we're all on the same page. I love the term, we may be wrong, but we won't be confused. So in executing this program where over 3,000 fans and folks in the community have been called by the call center, I mean, we set ourselves some tall goals, and it just is humbling to see the people inside the club deliver, but also the fan base respond to this outreach that we're bringing to the table. So I feel extremely honoured to be in the position. I feel a weight of responsibility to be the best that we can be. I can't do it on my own. It's just impossible for me to do it, and I'm not doing it on my own, you know. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful club, wonderful city, wonderful community. And the fans I talk to, I'm making calls each day, Mal, and I get as much out of the call, maybe more than some of the people I call, because I love talking about the football club and listening to people's, who their best players might be, yeah, historically, you know. And again, still for me, King Joe is the man.
Guys, just give a quick answer. I'll go to both of you. Rob first. Jack in Middleton asks, where do you see the club in 5 years' time?
Well, I'd say hopefully on the verge of loading the final few boxes into the back of a removals van and heading west towards Kingsford, perhaps. That timeline, as we've said earlier, may need to be reconsidered. But I think we'll be in good shape, Mel. As Dave says, we've got a very competent board, and there's an incredible team of people that are at the club. I've been nothing but impressed with everyone that I've met associated with the club, and it is indeed a privilege to be at the club, and that gives me the confidence that we'll be in very good shape in 5 years' time, challenging at the very top of Scottish football.
Dave?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. 5 years' time, an awful lot of the journey that we are on is dependent on others, you know. But what I don't want to do as a club, as we look at the game in Europe, I believe we'll end up being, we'll end up with a closed kind of door European league, or very difficult to get into. We're already heading that way. 2024 is an important year. We have to get ourselves ready for that. What might happen in Europe? We want to be able to, yes, be a key part of domestic football in Scotland, and the integrity that goes with that. But we absolutely have an appetite for European football. And so what we want to be in a position to be in is where we are playing in group stages. And I think there will continue to be changes. We've got a third league coming in, the second Europa League will start, I think, next season. And so for us, in 5 years' time, I'd like to see us be in pole position to be a player that's playing on the European stage with more games. How we get there, the most important thing is that we don't sit back and wait for people to give us the crumbs off of the king's table on the big leagues or the big clubs that are there. That we, along with like-minded clubs in Europe, as I would call them, community clubs, right? We need to have a voice. We need to be able to have a conversation around what we want out of this, rather than just waiting for scraps off the table. So it's difficult to see exactly where in 5 years' time. We've stated we want to be a top 100 European club. We're at 175. We used to be at 275. And we've stated that our goal is to consistently be in cup finals and winning trophies. And so for me, there's a reason why we play the games. There's not one game we should go into thinking we're going to lose that game. And I don't think there is. And that's why the games are all played. So we will continue to strive to be the best that we can be, but we will lobby for our position and similar club positions, whether it be in the SPFL or in Europe, so that we have a seat at the table.
Last question from Cameron. Dave, keep it short. Are we going to be okay? Yes,
because we will find a way of getting through this. Absolutely.
Guys, thank you very much. And a big thank you to all the fans for all your questions. And apologies if I got any names wrong. Sadly, we couldn't get through all the questions, but I'm sure this will be something we do again. The questions were certainly much better than the ones I ask. So, guys, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks Mal. And hashtag still standing free from Atlanta.